The space station Arcase. 12 floated in the silence of deep space. But inside the station, there was no silence at all. For 4 long days, the halls had been filled with sharp, painful screams. The Viren alien babies, small, glowing creatures with crystal blue eyes, had not slept even for a single minute. Doctors were exhausted. Robots were malfunctioning. Officers were shouting orders no one could follow. Every alarm light blinked red. Every corridor vibrated with noise. It felt like the entire station was losing its mind. The reason was simple. Viren babies did not cry like human babies. They screamed in high-frequency waves that shook walls and damaged machines. If they stayed awake too long, their brains could overload. Their bodies could collapse. They could die. No one had a solution. Inside the medical center, the Viren Council stood in a tight circle. The oldest council member, Cerilon, slammed his staff on the floor. "For days!" he shouted in his echoing alien voice. 4 days of no sleep. This is a crisis. If the babies do not rest soon, we may lose our future generation. "Doctors?" another council member asked. The head doctor shook his head in defeat. "We tried calming gases, soft lights, quantum lullabies. Nothing works. Robots cannot enter the room. The screams break their sensors." The council fell silent. Fear grew like a shadow. Suddenly, the automatic doors slid open with a soft hiss. A human janitor walked in, pushing a cleaning cart. His name was Elias Ward. He wore a simple gray uniform, carried a mop on his shoulder, and had dark circles under his eyes. He looked tired but calm, too calm for someone inside this chaos. Several aliens stared in confusion. "Why is a janitor here?" One of them snapped. Elias blinked. Sorry? "The corridor outside is full of spilled nutrient gel. Someone said it needed cleaning." "This is no place for you, human," another shouted. But what happened next froze everyone. The alien babies, who had been screaming nonstop, suddenly stopped. Every single one. The room became quiet. Alarms turned from red to green. Machines stabilized. The babies looked at Elias with wide, glowing eyes, and then made soft sounds that almost sounded like cooing. The council stared at him like he had just performed a miracle. Elias looked behind himself. "Are they looking at me?" "You." Cerilon stepped forward, studying him with deep suspicion. "What did you just do?" "I didn't do anything," Elias said carefully. "I just came to clean the floor." But the monitors told a different story. For the first time in 4 days, the babies' heart rates were normal. Their eyes were half closing. Some were even drifting into sleep. Everyone in the room was speechless. One of the scientists whispered, "Humans do not affect Viren infants. This should be impossible." Another whispered back, "Maybe he carries a chemical or a sound frequency." Elias raised both hands. "Guys, I really have no idea what's happening. I'm just a janitor." But the babies continued to calm down every time he moved or breathed or simply shifted his weight. They followed him with their eyes, relaxed their small glowing bodies, and for the first time in days, their little hands unclenched. Cerilon finally spoke, voice trembling. "Human, come closer." Elias swallowed nervously, but obeyed. He stepped toward the nearest infant pod. As he did, the baby inside let out a soft sigh, and its eyes slowly closed. The room gasped. One baby had fallen asleep. Within minutes, 2 more babies slept, then 5, then 10. The doctors nearly collapsed from shock. "How? How is this human doing it?" one whispered. A scientist pointed at a monitor. "Look at the energy waves. They stabilize when he is near. His emotional frequency is calming them." Emotional frequency? Humans don't have that. Clearly, this one does. Elias stood awkwardly in the middle of the room. "So, should I stay here, or?" Cerilon raised a hand. "Human, your presence is helping our newborn survive. You will stay." Elias frowned. "I mean, sure, but why me? I don't understand." Cerilon's voice deepened. "We do not understand it either. But your effect is undeniable." Another alien officer added, "You must have done something. Think, human. What is your secret?" Elias sighed softly, almost sadly. I used to calm my daughter on Earth. She had trouble sleeping. I learned tricks, soft humming, slow breathing, dimming lights with my hand. Simple things. Nothing special. He didn't realize at the moment he mentioned daughter, the babies reacted again. Tiny glowing hands reaching toward him, as if sensing gentle emotion. The council noticed this instantly. A single father, Cerilon whispered. Perhaps this is why. The room's lighting dimmed automatically as the babies drifted into deeper sleep. For the first time in days, the station was quiet. Everyone looked at Elias with a strange mixture of fear, respect, and wonder. Finally, Cerilon stepped forward and made the announcement. Human Elias Ward, from this moment, you are assigned to the Viren Nursery. You are now responsible for saving the next generation of our species. Elias blinked slowly. You want the janitor to babysit alien infants? This is not babysitting, Cerilon said. This is survival. Elias looked at the dozens of tiny alien babies now sleeping peacefully around him. He looked back at the council. He had no idea how or why, but he knew one thing. This was the beginning of something big, something dangerous, something no human had ever faced. The quiet in the nursery did not last long. 3 hours after the alien babies finally slept, the space station arcade, 12 woke again with soft chimes. The morning cycle lights brightened to a gentle blue, and the doors of the nursery slid open with a calm hiss. Elias Ward stood exactly where he had been all night. He had not moved. He had not slept. He was afraid that if he even blinked too long, the babies would scream again. But something surprising happened. When the first baby opened its crystal blue eyes, it did not cry. It simply looked at Elias and smiled. A small glow passed over its tiny face. Elias let out a deep breath. Okay, that's good. That's very good. Behind him, the council and the doctors entered quietly, like they were stepping inside a holy place. Cerilon observed the scene with narrowed eyes. They slept for the longest period on record. 5 hours. Impossible. The head scientist, Dr. Myron, tapped her tablet. All readings confirmed stability. The baby slept deeply and without interruption. She paused, only when the humans stayed in the room. Elias rubbed his neck awkwardly. Listen, I told you, I'm not doing anything special. Cerilon's eyes glowed. But you are. Even when you breathe, they respond. Elias shrugged. Maybe they just like the smell of cleaning soap. Dr. Myron stared at him as if he had just insulted 10 generations of scientists. No, human. This is not about soap. Elias didn't push further. He simply walked to another pod, checking on the next baby. A soft smile came to his face. Not forced, but gentle and natural. The baby inside relaxed instantly. The council members watched in silence. They did not understand it. They did not like it, but they could not deny it. This human had something they didn't. The janitors passed. Outside the nursery window, stars floated like frozen fireflies. Elias stared at them for a moment, his mind drifting back to Earth, to his small apartment, to the warm room with the soft moonlight, to his daughter, Anna. He remembered the way she used to curl in his arms and cry for hours because her nightmares wouldn't let her sleep. Doctors had no answers. Medicine did nothing. But Elias had found his own way. Slow breathing, soft humming, warm hands, simple tricks that came from love, not science. He did not tell the aliens this part. He didn't want to open old wounds. But even he could not deny it now. Whatever made his daughter sleep was making these alien babies sleep too. Alien observation room. Later that morning, Elias was taken to a round glass chamber. It looked like a science experiment room filled with scanning lights. Stand still, human, Dr. Myron ordered. Elias raised an eyebrow. Am I in trouble? No. We must understand why your presence is helping the infants. He stepped into the center. A soft beam scanned his body from head to toe. Heart rate, normal. Stress level, low. Emotional waves, undefined. Undefined? Dr. Myron looked confused. This cannot be correct. What's wrong? Elias asked. You emit a frequency that does not exist in any known human record. He blinked. Okay, that sounds bad. It is not bad, she said slowly. It is impossible. Ceylon joined them, his voice serious. Human Elias Ward, you carry something unique, something rare, something valuable. Elias frowned. He didn't want to be valuable. Valuable people were targets. What does that mean? It means, Ceylon said, you may be the only one who can protect the Viren young. Elias didn't answer, but inside him, a quiet fear formed, a strange reaction. When Elias returned to the nursery, something new happened. A baby in the corner pod started crying again. Its glow flickered from blue to red. The doctors panicked. Move back! It's overheating. Prepare cooling gel. But when Elias stepped near the pod, the baby's color changed instantly. Red-blue. It sighed and relaxed. Dr. Myron nearly dropped her tablet. This is beyond empathy. It's a direct biological response. Ceylon stared at Elias. You, human, explain this. Elias held up his hands. I'm telling you, I don't know. Maybe I just feel calm around babies, even alien ones. The council members exchanged worried looks. This was no longer a simple mystery. This was something deeper, something dangerous, something that did not fit any alien law of physics. A whisper in the vent. Hours later, Elias went to clean a vent in the nursery hall. As he opened the panel, he froze. There was a small metal device hidden inside. It blinked red, and it was humming, a sharp, unnatural frequency. The same kind that stressed the babies. Elias leaned closer. Someone whispered from the darkness behind the vent. Do not touch that human. Elias jumped back. A shadow moved inside the vent shaft, something fast, something watching him. He swallowed. The babies stopped crying because of him. But now, Elias realized something terrifying. Someone wanted the babies to keep crying. Someone had put the device here, and someone was still watching him. The metallic whisper inside the vent didn't sound like anything human. It wasn't deep. It wasn't soft. It was too smooth, too sharp, like a machine trying to imitate a voice. Elias stepped back, heart pounding. The hallway around him was empty. No council guards. No doctors. Only the dim blue lights of the nursery corridor watching him silently. He swallowed hard. Who's there? The voice didn't answer. Instead, something inside the vent shifted, like claws scraping metal. Elias froze. He had cleaned every vent on our case, 12. He knew the size of every pipe. Nothing with claws should fit inside this one. The red blinking device continued humming like a tiny, angry heartbeat. Elias took a shaky breath. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't an agent. He was just a janitor. But he also knew one thing. This device didn't belong here. He reached forward carefully. That was when the voice whispered again, closer this time. Step away, or the next cry you hear will not be from the infants. A chill raced down Elias's spine. He stiffened, then slowly lowered his hand. The shadow in the vent moved backward, like it was retreating deeper into the tunnel system. And then, silence. Elias stood alone in the hallway, feeling watched from every direction. The council's denial. He rushed straight to the council chamber. Ceylon and the other alien leaders were discussing energy charts when Elias burst in. There's a device in the nursery vents, he said, breathless. Something was inside the vent. Something alive. The council fell quiet. Dr. Myron frowned. A device? Yes. Elias nodded. It's making a frequency to stress the babies. Someone placed it there. Ceylon exchanged glances with the officers. Impossible. It's not impossible. I saw it. Ceylon lifted his staff. Human, do not forget your place. You are here to calm the infants, not to accuse our engineers. Elias clenched his jaw. I'm not accusing engineers. I'm telling you, someone wants the babies to stay awake. Someone is sabotaging them. A young Viren guard stepped forward. We scanned the station yesterday. No intruders. Elias shook his head. Then your scan missed something. But instead of believing him, several council members whispered among themselves. Humans imagine things. Perhaps he is tired. A stressed mind creates illusions. Elias felt heat rise in his chest. You think I imagine a voice in the vent? Dr. Myron looked at him curiously. Perhaps you misheard? I didn't mishear anything. The council dismissed him with a wave of Cerilon's hand. Return to the nursery. Human. Calm the infants. Leave the rest to us. But Elias knew they wouldn't check. They didn't want to believe an outsider, especially a human outsider. The babies react. When Elias returned to the nursery, a few babies were awake again. Not screaming, but uneasy. Their glow pulsed in short bursts. He moved closer. It's okay. I'm here. The infants calmed at once. But then something unusual happened. All babies turned their glowing eyes toward the same corner of the nursery, the shadowy corner near the vent. Elias's throat tightened. You saw something too, didn't you? One infant lifted a tiny hand and pointed directly at the wall. A cold feeling settled in Elias's stomach. Whatever he saw in the vent, the babies sensed it as well. Clues in the shadows. That night, when the station entered sleep cycle, Elias stayed awake in the nursery again. He pretended to rest, but his eyes watched the vents closely. The lights dimmed. The babies slept. The station hummed softly. Hours passed in silence. Then, movement. A faint scraping sound inside the vent. Elias didn't move. He only listened. Another scrape, then a metallic clicking. The same clicking he'd heard earlier. Slowly, a small shape appeared behind the metal grid of the vent. Its eyes glowed faint orange, like dying embers. Elias's breath caught. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't a robot. It was something in between. A small, spider-like machine creature crawled forward, but not fully out. Its legs were metal, but its body looked biological, like a strange hybrid. Its voice returned, broken and glitching. Humans, stay quiet. Elias whispered, What do you want? The creature twitched. Not want. Warn. Warn me? About what? The creature pressed its face, if it had a face, against the vent grid. Station not safe. Infants target. You interfere. Elias felt a chill spread through his fingers. Who is the target? The babies. The creature clicked again. No. You. Elias swallowed hard. Why me? The creature's eyes dimmed, then brightened sharply. Because you can save them. Before Elias could respond, the creature scuttled backward into the darkness and vanished into the vent system. The nursery went silent again, except for the sound of Elias's heartbeat, loud and heavy in his ears. A terrible realization. He felt something new, a deep understanding settling inside him. Someone out there didn't just want the Viren babies weak. Someone wanted anyone who could protect them gone, and he was the only one doing that job. Elias looked at the sleeping alien infants around him, glowing softly under the dim lights. He took a slow breath. If someone is targeting me, he whispered, then I guess I'm doing something right. But deep inside, he knew the truth. This wasn't about him. This was about something far bigger, something hidden, something dark. And now, he was standing right in the middle of it. The space station arcade. 12 was quiet, too quiet. Not peaceful, not calm, just waiting. Elias felt the silence pressing on his chest as he moved through the dim hallway outside the nursery. The babies were sleeping for now, but the spider-like creature's warning echoed in his mind. Station not safe. Infants target. You interfere. He didn't know what the creature was. He didn't know who sent it, but he knew one thing. Someone had planted that stress frequency device on purpose. And if the council didn't believe him, then he'd have to fix things himself. Because he wasn't just a janitor. He was a father once. And fathers protect. The broken room. Elias stepped into the side control room just outside the nursery. This was where the nursery's environmental systems were controlled. Light levels, temperature waves, sound filters, and the Viren baby's sleep frequency emitters. Last time he saw the place, it looked normal. This time, it looked wrong. Panels were half open. Wires were out of place. Screens flickered with random static. Someone had tampered with the system. Elias frowned and crouched near the main panel. He gently touched a loose cable and muttered, "This isn't damage. This is sabotage." Most humans couldn't read alien tech, but Elias repaired machines every day. Simple ones, complex ones, even ones not meant for humans. He didn't understand alien symbols, but he understood behavior machines. And these machines were scared. A janitor's eye. Elias pulled out a small toolkit from his uniform belt. Not a weapon, not a scanner, just a janitor's tools. Micro screwdriver, cleaning brush, adhesive patches, a portable light. He exhaled and whispered, "All right, let's see what you're hiding." He followed the wires. Most wires pulsed gently with blue light. Healthy. But one cable pulsed red. The same red as a vent device. Elias traced the cable deeper into the machine. A dark patch in the system glowed faintly in the corner. He reached in and pulled out a small metallic chip, black, sharp-edged, shaped like a triangle. He held it up. Another one, another sabotaging device. But this one wasn't humming. It was waiting like a sleeper. Elias suddenly understood. The vent device was just a decoy. The real sabotage was inside the nursery's main control system. If this chip activated, it could send a burst of stress frequency through every baby at once. It wouldn't just wake them, it could kill them. Elias felt his hands shake. He took a steady breath, tightened his grip on the chip, and whispered, "Not today." Alone with the system, he sat on the floor and opened the rest of the panel. Alien writing glowed across the screen. Symbols he couldn't read, warnings he couldn't understand. But he could see the pattern of the waveform, the stress frequency. It was waiting for a trigger. He had to disable it. He opened the waveform control. Wires sparked. A low alarm beeped. Elias ignored it. Okay. Frequency nodes are here. Stabilizers are here. This shouldn't be too different from environment emitters I fixed last week. He spoke to himself quietly, the way he used to speak when fixing things at home. His daughter used to call it dad mode. "Let's start with the amplifier. Easy, he murmured. A few quick wire adjustments. A patch to reroute power. A manual override to freeze the signal. The stress pattern hesitated. Paused. Stopped. The panel lights turned blue again. Elias leaned back and exhaled. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. For a moment, he allowed himself to feel proud. He wasn't trained for this, but he was good at fixing things. He always had been. He whispered, "Anna, I hope you'd be proud too." But he wasn't alone. A soft click echoed in the room. Elias froze. Another click. He slowly turned around. A tall Viren officer stood in the doorway, face half hidden in shadows. His armor glowed with faint red veins, matching the sabotaging device's color. The officer's voice was cold. "You should not be touching those systems, human." Elias swallowed. "I was fixing a problem." "You interfered," the officer said, stepping closer. "You were meant to calm the infants. Nothing more." Elias stepped back. "You should be thanking me. Someone planted a killing device in your nursery." The officer tilted his head. "Someone did." He took another step forward. "And I found it," Elias said, gripping the chip. "Look, do you recognize it?" The officer's jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. In fact, he smirked. Elias felt a cold wave wash down his spine. "You placed them," he whispered. The officer didn't blink. "You humans always assume you are the saviors," the officer said. "But we don't need saving. We need control. The Viren newborns grow too powerful, too quickly. Weakening them ensures stability." Elias stared at him in horror. "You're hurting your own babies?" The officer took one more step. "They are not my babies." His voice twisted into anger. "They are weapons." Elias felt sick. "You're insane." "No, I am loyal to the true Viren future." Elias slowly backed toward the door, but the officer raised a hand, and the door sealed shut with a thud. "You saw too much human," the officer said softly. "And now you must be removed." Elias tightened his grip on the chip. He was unarmed. He was tired. He was just a janitor. But sometimes a janitor knew more than soldiers. He looked the officer in the eyes and said, "I'm not going anywhere." A choice that could change everything. The officer lunged forward. Elias dodged and dove toward the emergency lever, slamming his palm onto it. The room lights burst to full brightness. The officer hissed and shielded his eyes. Elias used the moment. He grabbed his toolkit and threw it hard. The metal box hit the officer's face, knocking him off balance. Elias sprinted out before the door resealed. He didn't stop running until he reached the nursery again. He looked at the sleeping babies and whispered, "You're not weapons, not while I'm alive." But deep inside, Elias knew something frightening. This wasn't sabotage from an outsider. This was a conspiracy from inside the station. And now, he was officially marked as a threat. Elias didn't sleep that night. He sat on the floor of the nursery, back against the wall, watching the glowing alien babies breathe softly in their pods. Each baby was calm, safe, peaceful, but Elias wasn't. He kept replaying the Viren officer's cold words in his mind. "They are not my babies. They are weapons." Elias knew the truth now. Someone high-ranking. Someone with authority. Someone trusted. A Viren officer was behind the sabotage, but he didn't know who the officer truly was, or what he planned next. A strange alert. At exactly 3:14 station time, one of the babies stirred. Not crying, not screaming, just uneasy. A soft, trembling ripple spread to the babies near it. Elias stood up immediately. "Hey, what's wrong?" he whispered, moving closer. The babies were not looking at him. They were looking past him, toward the door. A second later, the nursery door beeped. Someone was outside. Elias stepped toward the controls to check the entry log, but the screen flickered, then went black. Elias frowned. No, don't do that." Before he could finish, the door slid open, and a figure stepped inside. The silent officer. He wore the same high-ranking armor Elias had seen earlier, dark plates with red glowing veins running through them. But this time, his helmet was on, face completely hidden. He walked slowly, silently. No breathing sound. No footsteps. Just a cold presence, like a shadow pretending to be alive. Elias instinctively stepped back until he was standing between the officer and the babies. The officer stopped 2 steps away, head tilted slightly, studying him. Finally, a smooth mechanical voice came out of the helmet. "Move aside, human." Elias shook his head. "Not happening. These infants are unstable. They will grow dangerous. We must control them now, before they become a threat." Elias narrowed his eyes. "Control? You mean kill?" The officer didn't deny it. He simply reached into a compartment on his armor. His hand came out holding a triangular device, identical to the sabotage chip Elias had removed earlier, but larger and active. It glowed red like burning metal. Elias's heart dropped. "If that thing activates," he whispered, "they'll all scream at once. Their bodies won't handle it." "That is the intention," the officer replied. The babies trembled at his voice. Elias spread his arms. "You'll have to go through me." The first attack. The officer lifted the device. Elias acted before he could think. He grabbed a small maintenance panel cover from the wall and flung it like a shield just as the officer pressed the device. A wave of sharp sound blasted from it. Silent to humans, lethal to Viren infants. The shield vibrated violently. Lights crackled. The officer stepped forward. Elias braced himself, his hands shaking but his stance firm. He wasn't strong. He wasn't trained. He wasn't armored. But he had one advantage. He had fixed this room. He knew every switch. Elias slammed his palm onto the emergency light panel. The entire nursery flashed with blinding white light. The officer staggered, armor flickering. The babies calmed instantly. The bright light neutralized the sound wave for a second. Elias didn't waste a moment. He rushed the officer and tackled him into a wall. It was like tackling a metal statue. Pain shot through Elias's shoulder. The officer barely moved. He grabbed Elias by the collar and lifted him effortlessly. Humans are weak, the officer said. Elias winced, but forced a smile. Yeah, but we're annoying. He jabbed his thumb into the officer's helmet vent. Hard. The officer hissed and dropped him. Elias fell to the floor, gasping for breath. The reveal. The officer staggered back, clutching his helmet. But Elias noticed something strange. For a second, only a second, the armor flickered, like an image breaking, like a projection glitching. A hologram? No, not fully. More like a disguise. Elias narrowed his eyes. You're not a Viren. The officer froze. You're something else. The disguise flickered again, this time longer. Long enough for Elias to see what hid underneath. A thin, pale alien face. Not Viren. Not human. Something with elongated gray skin and razor-thin eyes. A species Elias had never seen on any station list. The creature stepped back, voice deeper and unmasked now. Your presence has become a problem. Human. You calm them. You keep them alive. You prevent war. Elias felt his stomach drop. War. The creature tilted its head. The Viren Council is preparing a peace treaty with humans. But if their new generation dies, peace dies. The red device in its hand pulsed stronger. The baby started shaking. Stop. Elias shouted. Step aside, the creature hissed, or your species will lose the only advantage it ever had. Elias looked at the pods, at the tiny, glowing infants, at their trembling hands. Then he looked at the creature, and he made a choice. The HFY moment begins. Elias stepped forward. Not away. Forward. I'm not moving, he said quietly. Not for you. Not for your war. Not for anything. The creature's eyes narrowed. You cannot stop me. No, Elias said, raising his chin. But I can slow you down. The creature lifted the device. Elias lunged. He didn't think, didn't plan. He simply grabbed the officer's wrist with both hands and twisted with every ounce of strength he had. The device flew out of the creature's hand, smashing against the far wall and short-circuiting into sparks. The baby ceased shaking. The creature roared in cold fury. You will pay for this, human! Elias backed toward the pods, chest heaving. Get in line, he muttered. The creature raised a hidden blade. But before it could strike, alarms blared through the station. Intruder alert. Identity unknown. Lockdown engaged. The creature hissed, then vanished in a flash of cloaking light, escaping through the vents like a shadow. Elias collapsed to his knees, shaking. He whispered to the babies. It's okay. I'm here. You're safe. But deep inside he knew this attack was just the beginning. The alarms echoed through every corridor of our case, 12. Intruder alert. Identity unknown. Security teams deployed. Red emergency lights flashed across the nursery. The alien babies stirred, sensing danger, but they stayed calm as long as Elias stood close. He wiped the sweat from his forehead, chest still burning from the fight. The cloaked creature was gone. The sabotaging device was destroyed. But the danger wasn't over. Elias knew what was coming. The council, the blame, the questions, the politics. He didn't care. He only cared about the babies, dragged before power. Minutes later, the nursery doors burst open. A full squad of iron guards rushed in, energy spears raised. Elias raised his hands instinctively. Easy. Don't wake the kids. One guard grabbed him by the arm. Another pulled him away from the pods. The babies cried out in fear. Instantly, the guards hesitated. They had seen the glowing infants react this way only when danger was near. But their orders were clear. Elias Ward, the captain barked, you are to report to the High Council immediately. Elias glared at him. The intruder was here. You need to protect the babies, not arrest me. But they took him anyway. The council's fury. The council chamber was bright and towering, filled with holograms of the station map and energy readings. But the atmosphere inside was dark, hostile. Cerilon stood at the center, staff glowing. You, he said coldly, have brought chaos to our station. Elias blinked. Me? You attacked a Viren officer. That wasn't a Viren. Elias snapped. It was something else. A disguised intruder. It planted devices to kill the infants. Several council members hissed in disbelief. You lie. A human cannot identify our enemies. Why would an intruder disguise as one of us? Elias felt anger rise in his throat. Because someone inside the station is helping them. The room erupted with furious voices. Human accusations. Unacceptable. He must be removed from duty at once. Cerilon slammed his staff down. Silence. He looked at Elias with disappointment and something like sadness. You are dangerous, human. Your presence disrupts order. Elias felt something inside him break. I save your babies. You claim to save them. I fix the control panels. You damage sacred systems. I stopped a weapon from killing them and nearly destroyed the nursery in the process. Elias stared at them, stunned. They didn't want truth. They didn't want answers. They wanted control. Just like the intruder said. The emotional frequency. Dr. Myron stepped forward, holding a datapad. Counsel, she said quietly. With respect, the human is not lying. Gasps filled the chamber. Dr. Myron continued. I examined the broken device he found. It emits a targeted stress wave lethal to Viren neonates. This is forbidden technology. Cerilon stiffened. Forbidden? By whom? By everyone, Myron said. No Viren would use such a device. No faction approves it. It is foreign, unknown. Elias breathed out. Finally, someone listened. Dr. Myron held up a chart. And as for the infants, when Elias is near, their energy signatures stabilize. Emotion-sensitive readings rise. His presence is not harmful. It is healing. The council murmured in confusion. Cerilon's eyes narrowed. You are suggesting the human is necessary? Yes, Myron said firmly. He is the only reason the babies have not collapsed. The room fell quiet. And then, for the first time, Elias realized something. The council wasn't afraid of him because he was dangerous. They were afraid because he was important. Important meant power. Power meant imbalance. Imbalance meant politics. The emotional blow. Cerilon stepped closer, towering over Elias. You are a single father, he said softly. Your connection to infants is strong, powerful, perhaps too powerful. Elias blinked. What does that have to do with anything? You make our young dependent on you. No, Elias said, voice cracking. They just feel safe. That is the problem, Cerilon whispered. Elias looked him in the eyes. I'm not trying to take your children. I'm trying to protect them. Cerilon hesitated. It was a first sign of doubt. But another council member stepped forward, a stern old Viren woman. Humans are unpredictable, emotional, reckless. If we let one decide the fate of our future generation, we betray our own species. Elias's chest tightened. So what do you want to do? He asked quietly. Kick me out? Replace me? Let the babies suffer again? No one answered, because they all knew the truth. They couldn't replace him. No scientist, no guard, no Viren parent. Only Elias. A breaking point. Finally, Cerilon spoke with a heavy voice. Until the intruder is caught, the council will place you under restricted access. Elias froze. Restricted access of what? The nursery. Elias felt the floor disappear under him. You're banning me from the babies? Temporarily, Cerilon said. We must evaluate the risk you pose. They need me. Cerilon closed his eyes. If what Dr. Myron says is true, then their dependency on you is already unhealthy. Elias stepped forward, trembling with anger. They are crying right now. You know that, right? You kept me away too long. Guards grabbed his arms. Stop, Elias pleaded. Just let me help them. But the council didn't look at him. They turned away, discussing politics, power, fear, as if the babies didn't matter, as if Elias didn't exist. HFY moment begins. As the guards dragged him out, Elias said softly, You think you need control, but what you really need is humanity. The guards paused. Elias looked straight at the council. And you're about to find out what happens when you take that away from your children. The baby's cries echoed faintly down the hall. And for the first time, Elias wasn't in the room to calm them. The council stared at each other in silence. As our case, 12 trembled with the sound of 100 crying infants. The crying did not stop. It echoed through every metal corridor of our case. 12 a living storm, sharp, painful, unstoppable. The Viren infants, separated from Elias, released waves of distress powerful enough to shake the station's energy grid. Warning lights flashed red. Systems overloaded. Medical teams panicked. Nothing calmed the babies. Nothing worked. The council chamber trembled as the screams reached their peak. Cerilon clutched his staff, shaken. This is impossible. They have never cried like this. Dr. Myron ran into the room, breathless. Their vitals are collapsing. Their systems are overheating. They need the human now. Cerilon's jaw tightened. We must maintain control. A sudden explosion rocked the station. The lights flickered violently. Another alarm blared. Nursery system failure. Infant pods critical. Council members gasped. Cerilon's voice shook. We may lose them. Dr. Myron pointed at him. Furious for the first time. You did this. Not the intruder. Not the human. You. And in that moment, every council member understood. Their fear had blinded them. A father's rage. Meanwhile, in a secured holding room, Elias sat on the cold metal floor. Hands cuffed, heart breaking. He could hear the baby screaming through the walls. He tried to cover his ears. Tried to breathe. Tried to stay calm. But he couldn't. He felt like he had felt years ago, when Anna cried in the hospital, and no doctor could help, and no machine could fix it. Only him. Only a father's heart. And now these alien infants, who were not his children but felt like they were crying for him. They needed him. They were calling him. He couldn't sit here. Elias stood. He pulled against the cuffs, hard. Pain shot through his wrists. Metal bit into his skin. He pulled again, and again, and again, until, snap, the cuffs broke. The return of the janitor. Elias burst into the hallway. Guards shouted and ran after him, but the screaming infants drowned out every sound. He sprinted down corridors he now knew by heart. Left turn, long ramp, blue door, nursery chamber. He slammed his shoulder against the entrance. The doors burst open. A wave of blue-red energy hit him. Raw panic from dozens of alien babies fighting for breath. Their glowing eyes turned toward him instantly, and the moment they saw him, their cries softened, their pain eased, their pulses steadied, not fully calm, but surviving. The intruder's final move. But the danger wasn't gone. The cloaked intruder, the gray-skinned alien with thin eyes, dropped from the ceiling vents like a falling shadow. It landed between Elias and the babies. You should have stayed in your cage, it hissed. Elias stepped forward. I'm not letting you hurt them. They were never yours to protect. They are children, Elias growled. They don't belong to war. The intruder raised his weapon, a shimmering blade shaped like liquid metal. This time, human, you die. Elias took a breath, not of fear, of determination. He grabbed a metal rod from a broken maintenance unit and stood ready, like a father defending his home. The intruder lunged. Elias blocked the strike. Sparks burst. The blade slashed the wall. The babies whimpered, but watched him with glowing hope. The intruder swung again, faster this time. Elias dodged and slammed the rod into its helmet. Cracks spread across its visor. You don't understand, the creature hissed. Their power will grow, and when it does, they will destroy you all. Elias stepped forward, eyes burning with fire. Then we teach them better. With one final strike, he smashed the creature's helmet. The intruder collapsed, its disguise glitching away, revealing its true form. Backup guards rushed in. Scientists scanned the creature. Alarm stopped. But Elias wasn't looking at any of them. He was already walking toward the infants. The HFY moment. Elias placed both hands on the nursery pod controls. He breathed slowly, calm, steady, gentle, just like he used to do with Anna. One baby relaxed, then another, then all of them. Their glow turned soft blue. Their cries faded to quiet breaths. The entire station seemed to exhale with them. Council members entered behind him, silent, humbled, shaken. Ceylon stepped forward, voice trembling. Human Elias Ward, today, you saved not just our young, but our entire future. Elias didn't turn. His eyes stayed on the infants. I didn't save anyone, he whispered. They trusted me. I just didn't let them down. The council lowered their heads in respect. Dr. Myron spoke softly. You have done what no scientist, no warrior, no leader could do. Ceylon placed a hand on Elias's shoulder. From this day forward, he declared, you are the guardian of the Viren young. Elias finally looked up, eyes tired, heart full. I'm just a janitor, he said quietly. Ceylon smiled. No, you are human, and sometimes that is greater than any title. The babies glowed brighter, as if agreeing, and thus, in a quiet nursery floating in the darkness of space, one human father changed the destiny of a whole alien species, not with strength, not with weapons, not with power, but with something simple, something extraordinary, the human heart.